On this episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we talk about Scryers of the Ibis, spelled with an I, by Ovid's Withering. Lots of real heavy Greek themes on this episode. Isn't that right, Jaryn?
Yes, it is.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another... I don't know. I'm just talking like plankton tonight. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast. My name is Kayle. I am your experienced metal fellow, and with me is my less experienced metal fellow,
Jaryn.
Today we did something a little bit different. Normally I pick an album that I am familiar with and that I've listened to before, but today we decided to change things up a bit. I think from now on we are going to be relying on the recommendation system on last.fm. I could also use Spotify, but that's the one I chose for right now. And the first thing that popped up that seemed interesting was the album Scryers of the Ibis by a band called Ovid's Withering. They are an, I believe, American technical / progressive deathcore band. It's our first foray into deathcore. But first, we're just gonna vamp a little bit so we don't have to talk about the album itself for 30 minutes straight.
Yeah. One cool thing that happened today. Well, one bad thing that happened. I'll start with that. Right away this morning, my first class, I went to class and the professor was like, all right, who's ready for the test?
Oh, that's fun.
There wasn't even an oh crap moment I forgot. It was, when on earth have we ever talked about having a test today?
Oh boy.
And so I don't know that I failed, but I don't know that I did well on it either.
I mean, could go either way.
Yeah, it's a flip of a coin. And then
that's what the professor's doing.
She's just flipping. She takes somebody's paper, she puts it down, and is like, all right, Kale's turn. Flips a coin. Heads.
Yeah.
Okay, he gets an A.
Yep.
I kind of wish that's how it worked.
That wouldn't be great, because then there's also a 50% chance that you completely
That's
and utterly
true.
fail.
It depends on your luck, I suppose.
So what else happened with your day?
I made a brand new opening for our campus TV show, and so that was on TV tonight.
It's very good. You video making boy.
Yeah, that's...
Sorry, there's a jet flying overhead, and it really distracted me for a second. But you made a really cool pre-produced open for the show.
Yeah, it was fun to make, and I'm glad that everybody liked it, because the last one was made when one of our professors was the person who made it when he was in college, however many years ago.
That it's aged. It aged poorly.
Yes.
I would say. But now we finally got a new one in place, all thanks to you.
So we're set for the next 20 years.
Yeah. We're good for another decade. Interesting things that have been happening to me. I mean, I took part in the show today. I was doing the live shot. That was fun. Went into the dome, got some shots. We went to the dome, got some shots, got super wasted, man. That was fun. Other things that have been happening this week, I have been playing the new game Kingdom Come Deliverance. It's been a lot of fun so far. I haven't gotten very far into it, though. There's a really, really steep learning curve to that game that is honestly pretty intimidating. And lock picking is ridiculously difficult on console, but they're trying to fix it as that stands. But I'm having a lot of fun with that.
I haven't played video games for a long time, just because the last console that I had was a PS3.
Okay.
And I've just not been able to wrap my mind around spending the money to buy a PS4 or an Xbox One. And now I'm on the fence are they going to make a PS5? Or, is there going to be a new console coming out in the next 5 years?
I don't think in the next 5 years probably, but I would say at the tail end of that 5 years. I think they're going to sort of iterate on this current generation more so, because you've got like the PS Pro and then the Xbox One X. Those sorts of things I think is kind of where this generation is going, and they're just going to iterate on what they have for a while.
Yeah. Because I just don't want to buy a PS4 and then have a PS5 come out and they stop making games for the PS4.
Yeah, it's because it's really, really expensive to produce a new console in its entirety. So instead, they're just kind of upgrading what they got. Before I bought Kingdom Come Deliverance, the last time I bought a full-priced game was a good year and a half ago when I got Gears of War 4. And like I've hardly, like in the last year, I've hardly played video games beyond, like I'll put a podcast on and turn on Fallout 4 because at the point that I'm at in that game, I'm like level 107 and it's just sort of a turn your brain off and just kind of wander around and shoot things because I'm practically invincible. But yeah, I hadn't played a lot of games. I'm still sitting on The Witcher 3. Like I still haven't finished it and I'm so close, and if I come back to that game, I think I'll have to restart it. And I never even got to the DLCs, both of which are very long. There's a lot of games sitting there to satisfy me for whenever I finish Kingdom Come Deliverance, but that game moves pretty slow, I think, so it'll probably be a while until I finish Kingdom Come Deliverance. But really good. It takes place in the early 1400s in Bohemia, and you play the son of a blacksmith, and your family's been murdered by these mercenaries working for the king of Bavaria? The king of Germany or something like that. I can't remember where he's from, but it's King Sigismund. It's all like historically accurate for the most part. It's King Sigismund during like this civil war in the Holy Roman Empire, and you have to try and take vengeance on the people that killed your family. So I don't know, it's pretty cool. I like it so far.
That sounds really cool.
It's tough. It's tough as hell. But like I love this setting because like the Holy Roman Empire is like my favorite historical setting. I love the idea of all these different states that are technically under an emperor, but then they all have kings too, and halberds and plate armor and knights and all that stuff. I love it. I eat it up like it's candy. Another setting is ancient Greece and Greek mythology. Ooh. Another setting that we could talk about, which is appropriate because that's the setting of the album that we listened to, Scryers of the Ibis by Ovid's Withering. Did you pick up on that it's like Greek themed?
Yeah, I didn't right away. I was running on the treadmill, and then, what does it say? It's something about Poseidon.
Yeah.
And it said his name, and I like nearly like fell on the treadmill. I was like, what?
And he's got an army of titans.
Yeah.
And then they tell you that Olympus has fallen.
Yeah.
Like that movie with Gerard Butler.
Oh yeah. Is Morgan Freeman in that one? Or there's Olympus Has Fallen and there was White House Down, which were the exact same movies.
Yeah.
But one had
White House Down had Magic Mike Boy in it, and Jamie Foxx was the president. Yeah. Whereas Olympus Has Fallen has got Morgan Freeman and Gerard Butler.
Okay.
Gerard Butler, star of 300, which takes place in ancient Greece.
It's all
back on track
together. Yeah,
back on track. So, this album has a loose story to it. It might all kind of tie together. I looked at the lyrics and tried to piece it together, and I wasn't entirely able to. There seems to be some unrelated stories that kind of maybe weave together a little bit more than I was able to realize. The last couple of songs seem to deal with... There's 3 characters in the last couple of songs. There's Pan, Prometheus, and I can't remember the Greek pronunciation of her name, but it's the same character of Pandora. Mm-hmm. And Pan is apparently after Pandora's box or something like that, which I just realized is sort of in double entendre because there's some like real rapey vibes going on there. Pan like wants her... So if you don't know the story of Pandora, she was the first human created by the gods or some such. And I can't remember how her box comes in there, but... I
think they gave her the box and told her never to open it or something. She had this box and was never supposed to open it.
Yeah, so Pan is for some reason Pan, the god of nature and music and whatnot, is like the villain in the last part of this album. And I'm not sure if Poseidon is supposed to be the villain in the first part, or if, the gods did something bad that he decided to like take over Olympus or some such.
One of my favorite lines from the first half is it's like spoken word when he says it, but it says Poseidon's new empire flows from the down from the clouds to humiliate those who drowned at his feet.
Yeah.
And I was like, ah.
See, the line is cool, but I'm gonna be honest. This album didn't thrill me.
Yeah.
Like the writing is cool, and I appreciate all of the symbolism and the writing and the knowledge of Greek mythology. And this is not to this doesn't tell the true. It doesn't tell a story that exists in Greek mythology.
Yeah.
It's its own story, but like I appreciate all the work that went into it, but I felt like especially those spoken word lines, they felt real cheesy to me.
Some of them did have that vibe, yeah.
Like the entire time I was thinking about this on my ride home from work. The entire time I was listening to this album, for the most part, I was just thinking of bands that are similar to Ovid's Withering that I like more.
Yeah.
Like I was thinking of Aversion's Crown, and I was thinking of Shadow of Intent. Both bands are very similar. Both bands use a lot of keyboards in their compositions. Both bands have distinct themes. Aversion's Crown tends to focus on this idea of like overwhelming extraterrestrial advances, especially like their latest album Xenocide. And then Shadow of Intent is, I guess, technically still dealing with aliens, but more specifically within the setting of the Halo universe.
Okay.
And like the first album deals with like the Forerunner Wars and stuff like that. I'm a huge Halo nerd. I've got 2 or 3 Halo posters hanging up in my room. Like, so I really like both of those bands, and at first I was like, oh, this reminds me of Shadow of Intent. And then as I kept listening to it, I was like, man, I wish I was listening to Shadow of Intent. Because the music felt a little stale to me in some ways. And part of that, the other thing that I was thinking, before we'll get some of your thoughts, part of the reason why it felt stale to me was that I could really tell how digitally produced it was. This album doesn't really sound very natural. Not that that's a terrible thing, and a lot of technical and progressive metal bands do that. Not just deathcore, not just death metal, but just in general. A lot of bands produce primarily digitally. They reamp their guitars digitally, and they record on an electric drum kit or just program it entirely and then put it into a drum machine. But it felt so obvious to me, and it felt, despite all the things that it was trying to accomplish, which was a lot, it felt kind of cheap. The production made it feel kind of cheap, and I think if they had gone a different route, it might not have felt that way, because like electric drum kits kind of bother me, and a lot of bands use them, and I understand completely why they use them, because it allows you to save a lot of money if you do go into the studio and don't self-produce. If you are going into the studio, one of your band members, if they have access to Pro Tools, you hook up your electric drum kit to that, and you can track all of the drums for the entire album before you even step foot in the studio. And that saves you a lot of time and money. But on the other hand, you lose something. There's this real sense of humanity to it. Like, that's what I love about Cattle Decapitation. Their drums are super quick and ridiculously complex and fast, but you can find videos of Dave McGraw sitting down with a full kit, mic'd up in the studio, and he does great. And I wish more bands took the time to do that and paid a little bit extra, because I think it makes for a better product in the end.
Have you ever played one of those drum kits?
No, I haven't.
It's the weirdest thing. They had we were at Jacobson Music, which is a music store in town, and they had one all set up. So you put the headphones on.
Yeah.
And it's weird.
I can't imagine that gives you how do you deal with the difference in feedback because a lot of people practice on electric drum kits as well, because you can it's far less noisy.
Yeah.
You practice on an electric drum kit, you've got your headphones on, and your sample's ready for whatever you want the drum kit to play, and you do that, and your neighbors don't want to kill you.
Yeah.
So, how does a drummer deal with a difference in feedback once they go to play an actual kit? And playing the same material on that kit, you get so used to it being on the electric drums. How do you deal with that difference? And I think for a lot of technical deathcore bands especially, The answer is they don't deal with the difference because a fair amount of them don't tour live. But Ovid's Withering has. They have toured live. I did a little bit of cursory research. They broke up, which is something that we can talk about a little bit later. But first, I want to get some of your thoughts on the album because I was kind of lukewarm on it. I wanted to like it a lot more than I did, but how did you feel about it?
Now that you've kind of brought it up, it did seem really like clean, but not in like a super technical, like the people playing it were super clean, but it did feel that super, like we were talking about how people record in analog because
there's a warmth to it.
Yeah, stuff like that. That was missing from it.
It felt, I think the best word would be sterile.
Yeah. I enjoyed the story, just because like I'm a sucker for like Greek mythology stuff, but I definitely get where you're coming from, where some of the lines felt cheesy, and maybe it's because when we listened to Slice the Cake, that guy was so
I will admit I'm a little spoiled when it comes to my like spoken word and like poetic metal.
Yeah.
When you come off of albums like that, it's hard to get used to someone else.
Yeah, and I definitely enjoyed this album. I don't think it was... I would say this is pretty middle of the road as far as I didn't think, I wouldn't listen to this again. But I also wasn't like, oh, man, I have to, I'm going to listen to this in my free time all the time. Yeah. And so it was... I liked it, and I would suggest if you're looking for just an album to, put in the background or whatever, or if you really like Greek mythology and you want to try it.
And if you really like, deathcore, I think this is... something that would interest you. And if you like the other bands that I mentioned, there's a lot to find on this album that you like. For me, like, I'm not nearly as into deathcore now as I used to be. A lot of the bands that I used to listen to are kind of the ones that are set for me. I'm not looking for any more deathcore bands to really listen to because I know what they're about. A lot of them sort of do the same thing. And there's this whole group of technical deathcore bands out there that, sort of Rings of Saturn is kind of at the head as being the most popular. And then you've got Shadow of Intent and Aversion's Crown and Slaughter to Prevail and stuff like that are all kind of under this technical deathcore label. And then you've got the super popular bands like Chelsea Grin and Whitechapel and stuff that those bands appeal to me even less now than... a lot of these technical bands that I struggle to get into. I didn't hate this album. I just wanted more from it. I wanted it to be better than it was, which is maybe a fault with me.
Yeah.
And like you said, I appreciated the story. I just wish that the way it was packaged was a bit better.
Yeah, because I think that with films and anything, if you have a good story but a mediocre... process of telling it makes the story not worth,
To me, when I'm consuming any piece of media, there's nothing more disappointing than wasted potential. Being able to look at something and say, well, this would be really good if they didn't make that decision or that decision or that decision, but there's a ton of good ideas at work there. And this album kind of falls under that. I thought the vocals were pretty good for the most part. Like I said, the spoken word... or just not even spoken word. It was more like narration.
Yeah.
Like I said, felt a little cheesy. It was clear to me that there was some like 22-year-old guy on the other end of the microphone trying to sound like some sort of a Greek god.
Yeah.
And I didn't buy it. I didn't buy that for a second. And some other bands that I've listened to have that same problem. Like on Shadow of Intent's most recent record, there's a really long part in the last song that is all narration, and I didn't buy that either, which I maybe shouldn't expect too much, but for me as an aspiring voice actor and a person who's really into, good voice acting and that sort of thing, it's hard for me to be sold on these, 20-something guys that are really, really good vocalists, but then try to, sound like some sort of magnanimous prophet or something like that. And it falls flat.
Well, and it's pretty easy to see through, like, especially if you don't have the voice for it, but you try it. Like, obviously, you can, like, warp your voice into a lot of different things, but, like, if I try to go down here, it sounds like I'm trying to do that, and it doesn't sound like somebody's natural voice. Yeah. It just sounds like I'm purposefully. And
you can hear that somebody's putting on a voice.
Yeah, it doesn't sound natural at all.
And depending upon, just about wider media, depending upon what you're doing that voice for, it can still be effective. Especially if it's comedic, it can be effective where it's like, yeah, that guy's putting on a voice, but it's supposed to be kind of funny.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're trying to sell it as being something super serious, like this album was, it doesn't work quite as well.
Yeah. It's hard. I have a history lesson like I did last week, if you would like to know.
Okay. Last week, I looked up the brazen bull.
Okay.
That was actually a Greek thing.
Greek thing? Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of apocryphal. They don't know if it actually happened, but it was more of it was a Greek thing instead of a Roman thing. So
okay.
It's
all tying
it's
together.
all tying together.
Everything about the Bronze Medalist is tying into this episode.
For this album. It's all tying together for this album that Kayle feels lukewarm about.
That we're both like,
this is the episode where everything coalesces.
But you know how Christians view the, hell and the devil as this fiery burning pit, and the devil's this horned man with goat legs.
Yes.
Well, you're talking about how Pan was the bad guy, right? Well, the Greeks used to have Christian slaves, and so they'd have their big bathhouses, and how they'd heat the water is they'd have Christian slaves under there with these big fires under the tub, and they'd have to shovel coal into the fire. Mm-hmm. And because the Greeks were having a good time, and Pan is like the god of having a good time.
I guess, Dionysus is a bit more appropriate.
But they had Pan was in each corner of the tub. He was like the foundation. So there were these Christians that were down in a fiery pit.
Yep.
And at each corner, everywhere they'd look, was a horned man with goat legs.
And I had read that before, that the modern depiction of Satan as being this, as being basically a satyr, but then with a long spaded tail.
Yeah.
I don't know where that came from. I think that might be like an association with dragons or something like that. But basically this depiction of Satan as being a bedeviling satyr. I had heard that it was originally based on Pan. Which is kind of odd because Pan is a relatively benign figure in most of Greek mythology, as much as any figure in Greek mythology can be benign, because everyone was kind of a dick in Greek mythology. I don't know if there was really any nice guy in Greek mythology.
There was.
They're all just assholes. It's like, why can't... That's what I like about Nordic mythology more, is most of the gods in Nordic mythology are relatively decent people. You've got guys like Loki that are obviously, dick bags.
Yeah.
But, Odin is nowhere near as much of an asshole as Zeus.
Yeah.
Like, he still goes down to and wanders the earth as in the guise of a mortal man, but he doesn't constantly try to trick people and then, punish them for doing the logical thing that a human would do.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's always bothered me about Greek mythology. It's like, why are the gods all such assholes?
Yeah, they they create the humans and then just go mess with them all the time.
Yeah, stop messing with us. Just if you
we're trying to pray to you and you keep messing with us.
It's I got to teach him a lesson. Well, maybe if you just told us the lesson instead of turning a random dude into a bull.
Yeah.
Maybe we'd understand, but no, you had to turn Jeff into a bull. And now he's going to screw that king's wife, and then a monster who eats people is going to be born, and you're going to have to lock him in a maze.
Oh, man.
I think that's how that works. I think the bull was just like a magical bull.
I know that story, too.
The Minotaur?
Yeah. Should I give you a brief depiction?
Sure.
All right, so there was this lady, and she really wanted to have sex with a bull.
Okay, yeah, it was just a bull. It wasn't turned into it by Zeus or anything.
Yeah, and she just, couldn't get it. Obviously the bull knows that she's a human. So what?
She hid inside of a fake cow.
Yeah, she made a fake cow, and then she stuck her private parts up where the private parts of the cow is, and the bull was like, don't mind if I do.
Now you're jogging my memory.
Yep.
But like turning a man into a bull because of whatever bullshit reason. It's absolutely something that Zeus would do.
It definitely it's probably happened.
Like it's probably some Greek myth. Zeus turns a guy into a bull. Like
just cause
why not? I'm Zeus. I'm a dick. I don't know. Yeah, I like Nordic mythology quite a bit better. The gods don't really interact all that much with mortals in most of the Nordic mythology that I'm familiar with. It's mostly like them on their own quests. Like Odin's quest for knowledge doesn't involve him punishing some random Viking dude. Like they reward people that are good at fighting. They get to go to Valhalla or whichever the other one was, because it's 50-50. Sometimes you'd go to Valhalla with Odin, and sometimes you'd go to, I can't remember what the other lady's name is, but she had her own hall where some of the warriors got to go. And even like Hell wasn't that bad. It was Hell was just like boring and like, dark and kind of drippy.
You didn't get to like in if you went to Valhalla, you didn't like there. You got to drink beer and everything was great.
Everything's awesome. Like endless battles. If you really like battles, that's your place to be.
And Hell was just like you kind of just had to sit and twiddle your thumbs.
Yeah, it's like the way I understand it, the Nordic version of Hell is more or less like the Catholic idea of purgatory. Where, like people who ended up in Hell just didn't really do anything notable in their lives. I don't know if I almost said ancient Nords. That's a Skyrim term, but I don't know if like the ancient Norse gods had, or in their mythology, if there was any particular punishment for like bad people or wicked people.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know if they had anything to that effect.
Look that up, and if you find the answer,
let us know.
Yeah,
if you know a lot more about Norse mythology, then
we're probably like everything we've said about like historical things is probably wrong.
Absolutely wrong, including the stuff I said about Kingdom Come Deliverance.
It's all wrong.
I got it all wrong. No, I mean we're at about time, unless you've got something else that you want to talk about. All right. So, Scryers of the Ibis.
If you're a completionist and you want to listen to every single album we've listened to, go for it. If you don't really have the time,
maybe skip this one.
But
and like I said, if you already like progressive, technical, deathcore, that sort of thing, that's probably up your album, probably up your alley. Yeah, if you are interested to see a bunch of, deathcore guys' interpretation of Greek mythology, then go ahead, be our guest. So a couple of plugs. I'm going to be uploading a new episode of Fan Talk real soon. It's about the debut album from Letters from the Colony. It's called Vignette. I believe they're Swedish. It's a Swedish sort of progressive metal gent band. I really dig it, and I would encourage you guys to check out the album and also check out my review, because there's a lot of good things to talk about. If you like this podcast, please subscribe to us on Libsyn or iTunes. If you'd like to get updates beside that, maybe you don't want to subscribe, but you would like to check us out on social media. Jaryn, where can they go?
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Those are all the places.
Yep, that's all of them.
The places.
I thought there was one more, but
MySpace.
MySpace. We're going to actually have to make that. We keep plugging our fake MySpace page.
I don't even know what MySpace looks like anymore. I never had a MySpace page to begin with, so.
Yeah, me either.
Don't check us out on MySpace, unless we actually do make a page, in which case, maybe you're listening to this months from now and we've made a MySpace page, then feel free to check us out. Yeah, with that stuff out of the way, thank you all very much for listening. My name is Kayle.
My name is Jaryn.
And we have nothing left to say.